won the pre-national blue race, and Ava Richardson won the pre-national white race, 2 separate races. The difference between the two is I believe Ava would be about 30 seconds behind Erica Burke-Jarvis in terms of giving you some of the quality of how they split up those 2 pre-national races. The reason why they do that, of course, is they've got so many folks that want to come out here and check out the national course. That's why they call it pre-nationals, and they have to split up the field somehow. However, to your point, George, Ava was 5th at the 2018 WCC champs, so she knows what she's doing out there, and maybe she's out there, but I don't think she's going to surprise anyone. She's just going to have to make a big move and make it very decisively.
Yeah, and a lot of times you don't see that move until the last go-round.
Yep, but I think that's going to be the case here. You can definitely see that the athletes are still grouped together. It's slightly stringing out between that first group of BYU athletes and then a small, it looks like a trio of BYU chase pack is starting to form. And then further back into the field, we'll see some more athletes running a single file in that kind of peloton approach. Now, as cross country goes in terms of scoring, if we were to take this first group aside, a lot of the real battles are back in the pack, back in the trenches, and with those 1 and 2 battles. As you think that we're really concerned about the top 5 athletes, and those do score. Well, 7 athletes actually contribute to the actual scoring, because outside of your top 5, the next 2 can displace or increase the score of another team. So if your number 6 finishes in front of the number 5 on another team, then you're just adding points to that other team's total. So even if you're further back in the pack, passing a couple of folks is a big deal. Not just because of the team score, but you're out there for a bit of pride. This is the WCC Championships. This isn't a dual meet early in the year where you've got something to look forward to. This is what you're looking forward to.
This is your season for a lot of these athletes.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially those folks who are not going to go on to the national meet. This is everything they've circled for 4 consecutive years if you are a senior, or if you are a younger athlete. This is your proving ground. This is for you to say, like, I deserve to be here. I'm going to make a big transition from high school or sophomore year into really competing at this level. So this is absolutely a very, very important meet for these runners.
Yeah, I heard a track coach once say, if you don't get a medal, get a PR.
No, that's true. At cross country, the interesting thing about that is we could probably run the race without times altogether, because it's only about place in cross country. So a lot of these head-to-head matchups go back for a number of races throughout the year. You'll see the same folks time and time again. For a little friendly competition, a little bit of grudge match that's out there. But the fact remains is they're out there racing a lot of the same folks time in and time out.
I think it's one of the things, it's a great point you make, Josh, it's unique about a sport like cross country is in most other team sports, you play a team and you don't see them for another year. In this, you see the same people every 2 weeks, or a lot of the same people.
Yeah, you do, and it's different dynamics. And then as we're looking a little bit at the course right now, it looks like the BYU, that lead pack, is continuing to stretch it out. We're going to try and get that 2K split for these lead athletes, but you can tell right now that things are starting to rev up. And the way that you're looking at that is the arm carriage is a little bit more pronounced. They're grinding a little bit more. We've got 4 BYU athletes up in front. Looks like Ava Richardson from San Francisco is in there as well. The stride length is opening up a little bit more. The stride frequency seems to be roughly about the same, maybe a little bit quicker, but they're covering more ground, a little more power in there. We're going to get that 2K split for you. Looks to be about 13:30, 13:29 for Courtney Waymit from BYU. Now 13:29. That's again a 2K split for a group of 5 athletes. Looking a little bit back, one name we didn't mention earlier from Gonzaga, and she is running very well. That's Manley from Gonzaga, who is in that chase pack, and we'll look to see her hopefully run herself into a top 10 finish.
Right now, BYU's got a perfect score. If it ended right now, they've got a 15.
It does look on paper they've got a perfect score, but I think that might be a little bit misleading here, because my guess is that Ava Richardson is doing everything in her power not to let that happen. We still got 2K to go. That's a little over a mile, so a lot can change as we welcome the athletes for their final swing through the course here. And again, we're looking at, it looks like Stratton from BYU is in there also. A few other athletes to be running very well. Looking for that top 10, that all-conference award. That's certainly something that is going to be of interest to the women.
There's absolutely no drama in cross country as to who the all-conference athletes are. You finish in the top 10, you're all-conference.
Yeah, see, this is the best thing about the sport. There's no voting, you know? That doesn't mean
compete.
Anything. Yeah, there's no officials. There's nobody judging whether the ball went through the hoop before the buzzer sounded. It's you start at the line, we're going to run this far, and if you beat me, great, you're the winner. That's it. It's pure and simple. This is sport at its finest right here.
And if you're the coach of the winning team, poof, you're coach of the year. No controversy.
There you go. There you go. Now, as we're looking through the field, a couple other names that popped up here. We've got Anna Camp, who is from BYU. Now, the reason I bring her up is she's running very well for an 800-meter specialist in cross country. And my guess is, for every 800-meter athlete that I've known and I've run with, is cross country is something they have to do, not something they want to do. So I'd be curious to see whether or not that's Anna's take on the whole thing. Regardless, she's putting in the work. She's showing a lot of great range, and no one wants to be near her towards the end because she is clearly one of the fastest 800-meter runners in the conference, in the nation. She was 9th at the NCAA meet in 2019, this last year.
You know, and the whole thing with the 800 is sprinters will tell you it's a distance race, and distance people will tell you it's a long sprint.
Yeah, now the specialization in that 800-meter race it really is a beautiful blend of both. So the very, very best athletes can sprint and they can race distance. And so this is the clear indication right here with Anna Camp that she can run distance. So as the 800 is absolutely a beautiful race to watch on the track. Hopefully, for those around Anna who are not 800-meter specialists, they're gonna try and use a little bit of that distance to wear her out. And we saw a few other names pop in here. We're looking through some of the athletes, and it looked like Anna Pataki of Portland could be in the mix as well. She was 47th at Nuttycombe earlier this year with a big race in Wisconsin, and then the 14th at the Bill Dellinger Invite, which is a high-quality race that's in Oregon, so not too far from where she's going to school. So she should be in there. We're looking for that purple top of her. We had mentioned earlier that Claire Manley of Gonzaga Jr., she was 19th at Roy Griak. And the reason that I think it's important to point out how well she's racing, she was 36th at the WCC cross country meet not too long ago. So big jumps for her. Now it does look that BYU, they've got 4 up front. So if Avis continues to stay in the position she is, BYU will not have a perfect score, which, you know, if you are a BYU fan, you might be a little bummed out about. But if you are anyone else in the conference, maybe you're rooting for Ava Richardson to pull off a huge upset. Now they're about 800 meters away right here from the finish line, and they're up in front of us, and we can say that this is it. They're going to the hands right here. So Erica Burke-Jarvis right there on the outside, bearing bib number 1. You can see that. Just to her side, Whitney Orton, bib number 12, and Courtney Waymett, bib number 15. Those are all 1, 2, 3 right there, and then followed by Ava Richardson, and it looks to be in the back. That looks to be Olivia Hodge, a junior, who was 6th at the WCC meet in 2018, 14th at pre-nationals for BYU. Here we go, around the final turn, and so they're reaching at, it looks to be about 400 meters to go, and that is Orton and Burke-Jarvis. Orton looks like she's maybe got a bit of a grimace on her face as they go around that final turn before they come down through that finishing line. And Burke-Jarvis, I mean, she's smelling the barn doors right here, going around the turn, putting a little bit of distance, took the inside line, is now going to stretch her way right down that final fairway, and slowly pulling away. We're going to look back and see whether or not Ava Richardson can run down Courtney Weymouth-Smith for that top 3 position. But right now it's Burke Jarvis, but here comes Whitney Orton. Whitney Orton is trying to run down Erica Burke Jarvis, and here she comes. It's going to be a great stretch run. We talked about this, George. This is for all the bragging rights going home. Oh, someone's going to be happy on the flight. They're both going to be happy on the flight. They're going to go 1-2. Burke Jarvis, Whitney Orton. Here they go. Can Orton get her? It looks like Orton is on her way on the outside. She's made another move after that early move by Burke Jarvis as she comes flying into the finish line. They've still got a few more meters to run. Whitney Orton looking great across the line, taking a couple of steps just in front of Burke Jarvis. We're going to have to go to the camera on that one, but it looks to me that Whitney Orton is there. And then all of a sudden, Courtney Weymouth-Smith in 3rd. Ava Richardson, a tremendous race in 4th. And then we're going to take a quick peek up at the remaining runners as they come in. What a fantastic finish. I thought that Erica Burke Jarvis had done enough with less than 400 meters to go to put away Whitney Orton. But Orton coming back, storming back in that final, looks to be about 75 meters to really get the job done. And more BYU athletes come in. This is going to be unofficially BYU's championship without a doubt. Again, we're going to look deep into the field. It's going to be tight between San Francisco, Portland, and Gonzaga to see who was 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. But BYU, a couple of controlled laps for 4K. Started to stretch it out for that next K, and then everybody went in the hands with about a K to go, maybe about a mile to go, and lo and behold, Whitney Orton looks to be that she is going to be your champion. And we'll make sure to take a peek at that.
Yeah, taking another look at the finish, just looking at the live race reporting. This is a photo finish, and the unofficial results say it's 1/100th of a second that separates the two. Doesn't get closer than that.
No, it does not. It does not. And you can see Orton, she's weaving just a little bit all over the place as she's coming into the finish line. I can't really blame her. I mean, this is all she's trying to do is get to the line. There's no ill intent right there. Of course not. I mean, they're teammates. We joke about this being bragging rights, but you know, I think that they're at the end of the day, these are competitors. That's it.
So the Brigham Young Cougars sitting atop the women's field unofficially. We're waiting for the final results, but the Cougars ran a great race. Still a lot of athletes out on the course. And of course, as Josh has mentioned so poignantly, that the people who finish toward the back of the pack do play a role in the team scoring. So if your 7th runner beats somebody's runner in that spot, your team moves up in the standing. So it's very important. Right now, the unofficial team scoring, BYU 17, San Francisco 90. So that's what they're trying to shake out right now. And there's still people who are about 400 meters from the finish line toward the back of the pack. So we probably have another minute or two before the last athletes cross the line. BYU 17, San Francisco 90, Portland 95. Unofficially right now the team scores. With Gonzaga 111, San Diego 150, and Santa Clara right behind the Toreros. Taking a look at some of the other competitors out there. But a very spirited crowd here this morning in Van Nuys. Always love to watch the fans rooting on the runners. But BYU looking like they've repeated a great finish for the Cougars this morning. With an unofficial team score of 17, an almost perfect score. And a great push at the end by Whitney Orton pushing Erica Burke Jarvis. And right now, Orton, the unofficial champion. Remember, there's a half hour in which the coaches can contest the results. So we don't post the champions until they've had that meeting. and they resolve any grievances that might exist. Orton, Burke, Wayman, Richardson, and Hodge are your top 4. Pataki of Portland finished 11th, Rasmussen of San Diego 12th. Nabholz of Santa Clara 16th, Tate of San Francisco 17th. Just giving you a sampling of the top 25 there.
Let's do it with the cross country in the background.
I believe there are still 4 runners out on the course just from our vantage point. But the culmination of a season for most of these athletes you've watched this morning, trying to finish the 2019 fall campaign on a strong note.
Over here.
And of course, we'll try to have reaction from the finish line from our champions. But a great finish in a very competitive final 400 meters. So Orton, Burke, Wayman, Richardson, Hodge, Manley, Camp, Davis, Musselman, Sargent, Pataki, and Rasmussen, the top 12. Winning time coming in at 20:48.
Okay. Looks like 17.
With 18? Oh.
What do you got? That was unofficial.
Yeah, I was just, yeah.
With the unofficial results right now showing BYU as the team champion. San Francisco, Gonzaga, Portland, and Santa Clara all pushed hard on the course. But it looks like the Cougars will repeat as conference team champions.
The same finish as the last 2 years with Brigham Young.
Got it now.
The Cougars and the Pilots finishing in those 2 spots. Then San Francisco with 78. Gonzaga with 101, Santa Clara 133, and Loyola Marymount with 134.
But
those are numbers 5.
An excellent run this morning by these very talented student athletes.
Our winner, credited with a rounded off time of 1950. And we'll take a look at a little bit deeper into that in 600ths of a second separating herself.
So the final competitors crossing the finish line. And let's head down to the finish line. Josh Muxon is standing by with some of today's champions.
Thanks, George. I'm here with today's champion, Whitney Orton, and her coach, Diljit Taylor. Great to have you both here. First off, Whitney, congratulations. A lot of drama out there on course. In the second half, maybe not so much in the first half. Tell us a little bit about the strategy that you as a team, before we talk about the individual, had in place today.
We just wanted to stay all together in a group for the majority of the race, and then the last little bit we could kind of go and make it more of a race. So, yeah.
Well, one of the things that we loved in terms of watching that, it was a great stretch run for you and, of course, for Erica as well. I thought on that final turn, Erica might have you. So what was going through your mind as you're coming up on that last maybe 300 meters?
Sometimes when you get to that last stretch, it's like a certain, like, I'm going for it, I can do it. And sometimes it's kind of like a battle, like, can I? I don't know. It's like, yes, you can. And it's like, no, you can't. And then that's kind of what this one was. But I decided by the end that I was like, I can do it. I'm going to go for it. So.
And as you're thinking about this and all of your accomplishments throughout the course of your career, where does a WCC championship stack up?
I don't know. It's definitely nice. I don't know. I would rather win than not. So winning is always progress for me. So.
Yeah, well, I think this is a great indication, not just for you, but for the team as you head into obviously the mountain regions and then NCAAs, the big prize. And to Diljit, what are you seeing from your team today that you can carry in terms of momentum, not just from the championship, but looking forward?
Well, I think really doing that pack running and having those girls work together for the first couple loops. Obviously, we weren't perfect today as a team. And so there's some things that we can take from this race and continue into championship season, work on, and get ready for regionals and nationals.
Well, a big congratulations to that. Were there any things that came out from you that was really encouraging that you saw from that team race?
Well, I think you're just starting to see some faith develop in these runners, and so when they have that moment of questioning in the middle of a race, like can I or should I, and they're starting to answer with yes, which is what you want to see at the end of the season. So I was proud of that today.
Yeah, and then the final question here is, look, cross country's fun. Winning's fun, racing's fun. There's always a little bit of stress going into some of these races. How do you both keep a little bit of that fun going on and making sure that you're still loving what you're doing?
Well, we have our motto at BYU, it's the BYU Run for Her, and so we try to just focus on like running for the girl that fell in love with the sport, and I'm always reminding them to have fun with it, and we gotta love it. And so their passion, I just try to keep it fueled, and I think you saw some of that today out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And Whitney, I'm sure it was great to see your teammates right with you. So a huge congratulations on the individual championship, the unofficial team championship. We should see that coming back through as official here shortly. But a great run out here. Huge congrats to your WCC 2019 champion, Whitney Orton, and the BYU Cougars. So thank you both.
Thanks, Josh.
Well, Josh, great job down there at the finish line, and a great job today by the BYU Cougars, dominating in this race, edging out San Francisco for the top spot here in Van Nuys. There are the times from our champions, and as you can see, 19:49.3 for Orton, Burke Jarvis right behind her, 19:49.4. Then Wayman from BYU, so the Cougars take 4 of the top 5 spots. Ava Richardson from San Francisco at 19:58.4, exactly 10 seconds off the championship pace. And then Olivia Hodge rounds out the top 5. So those are your 6K winners on the women's side in a very competitive race, a race that really kicked into high gear in the last, let's say, 400 to 500 meters. There are your team scores. BYU, almost perfect, 18. Portland, 84. San Francisco, 90. Gonzaga at 123. And San Diego at 156. The Toreros running a very strong meet this morning in Van Nuys. But it is the Cougars who are the West Coast Conference team champions on the women's side. And be sure to stick around with us this morning. We'll have the men's race. It starts at approximately 11 o'clock Pacific, noon Mountain, and 2 Eastern time. So Josh and I will be around for that as well, and we hope you can watch that as well. And I think we're going to have a very competitive race on the men's side. Women showed that this is a great course to run on. There's the finish line, and that's where everybody wants to be, ahead of everybody else at the finish line. And Josh, was it the race we expected to see today?
Yeah, it was, George. I think this was what we'd mentioned at the early parts of the race. You know, it was about 4K of BYU really controlling and making sure they were in a position to run and race that last 2K. You can't script anything better than that individual battle right there. And after chatting with both Diljit and Whitney, you got to have a lot of faith to come back on someone as talented as Erica Burke-Jarvis is. And, of course, the defending champion. She's going to want to defend her title. I mean, there's a little bit of a legacy there that you want to lay down. You want to carry that momentum into the next event. But in terms of like team races, there's a reason BYU's where they are in the national poll. It's because they're very good. And this was something that we got to see on full display. So it was absolutely a great race. It was what we thought it could be from the Cougars. Diljit was a little bit bummed that they didn't score 15, but you know, that's not such a bad thing if they're just outside of that perfect score.
You know, and these teams are also getting to the part of the season. You've got your conference championship meets. You're going to go to regionals, and you have nationals. You mentioned those rankings. That picture is going to get a lot clearer and a lot more concise in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, it may. It certainly, in my opinion, you're gonna have to toss the rankings out after conference, and the reason why that is the who you run at conference may not be who you run at the regional meet. So there could be some scratches, and we look across the entries, like maybe the BYU men, for example, or the Portland men. We've seen this in the past. Hold out some folks that they want to save for the regional meet. So I think what the rankings do is they provide you with the depth and the potential for these athletes. But it's certainly something that eventually is going to kind of go by the wayside, much like the NCAA basketball tournament. Once you're in the tournament, who cares what your ranking is?
Yeah, and the funny thing about a lot of these events, you could do them 3-4 times and have different outcomes. The start.
Yep, blanket start right from the gun, up the alley, and then now we're seeing how easy it was, not just for BYU, but it's also, we talked about the Santa Clara athletes and even Richardson right there. Now we see her 198, but 198 running very lightly, very easily, clearly fit. She was in there towards the end. Janie Nevels was another one of the Santa Clara athletes who was in there early on. Now this is starting to stretch out. This is where it really got going, right before that final turn. And this is the home stretch right here. Brooke Jarvis, I thought, had done enough, and you could see her not slowing, but Whitney Orton just laying it down. And it makes me wonder, was Jarvis 100% today? Maybe. Or maybe it was just like Whitney Orton's day overall. But all in all, great 1-2 punch by the Cougars.
Yeah, 1/100th of a second separated them. So BYU, the champion on the women's side in the West Coast Conference. Beautiful day here in Van Nuys. Clear skies, nice breeze, perfect running conditions, Josh.
From where I see, absolutely. One more race to go.
So the men's race is coming up. Stick around for that. We'll have that on the air for you at 11 Pacific. For Josh Muxon, I'm George Devine. Stick around on the WCC Network. The men's championship coming up right here from Van Nuys, California. We're glad you're with us, and we hope that you stick around. Always a pleasure to have you here on the WCC Network.
Ostensibly true information is really false. Like, you're the decathlon coach and you had a national champion in 10,000 meters. Yeah, exactly. So this says Ricardo Santos came to the farm from Boston Athletic Association. Prior to that, he was director of cross-country track and field at Iona, helping the men finish second in 2008 NCAA championships. He wasn't. Nick Byrne was the head coach in 2008.
And the official results have been posted, so the 15-minute protest period has begun. And those results are posted on the blackboard right next to the finish line here, in between the team tents and the finish line, as well in the West Coast Conference tent. So we'll go a little bit deeper now. We gave you the top 8 finishing teams just a few moments ago. Brigham Young with a total of 18 points. We'll check records to see how that stands in the 35 years that the women have run the conference championship in cross country. It's got to be somewhere near the very best and most dominant performance ever. Portland in second with 84, San Francisco with 90, Gonzaga 123, 156 for the University of San Diego as they are fifth. Santa Clara in the number 6 position with 162, then Loyola Marymount, our host, with 165. They finished 7th. St. Mary's with 171, Pacific with the 259th, and Pepperdine with 309. The 10th place finishing team this morning for the women. about 17 minutes away from the men's championship race, and gives us a chance to offer some analysis of the favorites individually as well as team-wise. Connor Mance, Brigham Young sophomore, is unbeaten here in 2019. He's a returning All-American. He was 10th in last year's national championship and 3rd in this conference meet a year ago. Competition could and should come from Portland's 2-time All-American Emmanuel Rudolph Maurice. He comes off a very solid 23:57 run at the University of Wisconsin. James Millar, now a sophomore at Gonzaga, also figures to be up front. He was number 9 in this meet a year ago and is the school record holder that were the records established in the spring at 5K and 10K. That's Millar of Gonzaga. Team to beat, Brigham Young. They're ranked number 2 in the NCAA for the last 13 weeks. The opposition ought to come from the number 4 Western Region ranked number 12 in the NCAA, Portland, and the Zags from Spokane. They were 7th in number 7 ranked in the Western Region and number 29 ranked in the NCAA. And both Brigham Young and Portland have traded places in the national championships in the last couple of years. A year ago it was 2nd for Brigham Young, 3rd for Portland, and the year before that the other way around, with Portland the runners-up and the bronze medal award going to Brigham Young. So that's probably where the team battle is going to come this morning. First call for the men to report to the starting line. Second call for the men to report to the starting line, and as they do so, let's begin the introductions of the teams. Again, we are going, if you're looking at the starting line from the front, we're going right to left with these introductions, and we begin with the Gales of St. Mary's. Marty Kinsey, the head man, red, blue, and white will be the running colors for the Gales, and they are led this year by Anthony Vesquez, sophomore out of Manteca. He has brought his lifetime best down over this 8K distance by almost 70 seconds this year. So it is Vesquez and St. Mary's in position number 1. The number 2 position on the starting line, the Zags of Gonzaga. Pat Tyson in his 12th year, blue, white, and red for the Zags. This morning, James Moira, now a sophomore from Tacoma. He was ninth in this race a year ago. He is the school record holder on the track at both 5,000 meters and 10,000 meters is Moira. He, along with his teammates, will be running out of position number 2. This is the number 7 ranked team in the West region and the number 29 ranked team in the country, Gonzaga, in box 2. In the third starting position, Santa Clara, the Broncos of Felipe Montaro and Pete Cushman, maroon and white. Their jerseys and shorts this morning, 5th place in last year's conference championship. George Estrella, sophomore from San Jose, has been number 1 for most of the year for the Broncos. Got a best of 24:49. Guess where he did that? The Bronco Invitational. Everybody runs fast there. They were 5th as a team at the Bronco Invitational a couple of weeks ago. Santa Clara in position 3. 4th spot belongs to LMU, the Lions, with Scott Guerrero as their head man. Black and light blue are the Loyola Marymount colors this morning. Max Smith, sophomore from Del Rio, Texas, has brought his lifetime best down by almost 2 minutes this year. He's run 24:42 at this distance. This team was number 2 at the Covert Classic to begin the season, and number 6 to end of the regular season at the Bronco Invitational, with 4 men under 25 minutes. Loyola Marymount in position number 4. In the 5th spot, the defending champions from Brigham Young, the Cougars, coached by Ed Eyestone. Eyestone himself, a 10-time All-American. This is his 19th year as the head cross-country coach, and his team will run in blue and white, and they're led by the unbeaten Connor Mance, a sophomore out of Smithfield, Utah. He has won 3 times this year.
If he does, he's already done.
He is going to be kept company probably by Jacob Heslington, a senior from Orem. He's been in the top 10 in all of the races in 2019. He was 7th in last year's conference championship. This is a team that won the pre-nationals. They were 2nd at the Dellinger Invitational in the G ring this year, and they finished at 2nd in last year's national championship. The number 2 ranked team in the Mountain Region, interestingly enough, Northern Arizona, the national champs, the only team ranked above them. They have been ranked number 2 in the country for the last 13 weeks. Brigham Young in position number 5. Box number 6 belongs to the University of San Diego. The Toreros with Will Guarino in his 16th year as the head coach there. They were 9th in the conference meet a year ago. Sophomore from Colorado, Ethan Steiner has been there. He was the number 1 at the Highlander Invitational hosted by UC Riverside a little while back, 24:50. Just 4 seconds away from the school record. His lifetime best at 8,000 meters. They were 6th in their last meet at UC Riverside. So it is University of San Diego in position 6. In the 7th spot, Portland, the pilots of Rob Connor, the runners up in the conference meet a year ago. White and purple, their running colors, led by 2-time All-American Emmanuel Rudolph Levis, a senior out of France with a lifetime best at very good 23:57. His teammate Justin Hazel, sophomore from nearby Woodland Hills, with a lifetime best of 23:53, did that at the Dellinger meet in Eugene. Those 2 will lead Portland. They won the Linfield Invitational, the Portland State Invitational, and the Lowell Invitational in Willamette, and they were 9th in the pre-NCAA meet. Portland Pilots running in position 7th. In the 8th spot on the starting line, it is the University of San Francisco. The Dons, coached by Patrick Curry, and it's his 2nd year, black, green, and gold. shorts and top for the Dons with Peter Nicholson, senior from Australia. He is their school record holder at 815 meters during the spring. And Andy Snyder, the transfer from the University of Washington, brings his experience to the Dons there in position number 8. In the 9th spot, Pepperdine. The Waves played by Sylvia Mosqueda in her first year, black and orange their uniform colors. With Jackson Felton's a sophomore out of Texas. He recorded a lifetime best at the Bronco Invitational 2 weeks ago, running 24:36.7, number 5 on the all-time list at Pepperdine. And his teammate Carl Winter, sophomore from Scotland, has been in the top 5 for the Waves in each of the last couple of years. So it is Pepperdine in position number 9. That's your team and your field. There are 9 of them.
1 2 1 2. There we go. There we go. It's in it now. You bet.
And a great backdrop here at the Woodley Lakes Golf Course in Van Nuys, California. The 2019 West Coast Conference Cross Country Championships. Women's race wrapped up just a little while ago. We got the men's race coming up and a chance for the BYU Cougars to repeat atop the West Coast Conference. George Devine, Josh Buxton with you. And Josh, always exciting on this championship day. This course, we saw a pretty fast race on the women's side. What can we expect on the men's?
Well, I think the men are going to be very similar to the women. They're going to take advantage of the fast course here. The big question, of course, is whether or not the BYU Cougar are going to be as dominant as they were for the women. The men, the big difference here is they're going to add an extra lap to make it 8 kilometers rather than the 6 kilometers for the women. That's roughly about 5 miles for the men to race.
Let's go with the women's race here and see what happened a little earlier when BYU ran out to the championship.
Yeah, again, they're out and underway. It's very slow early going on. BYU controlling the pace as things started to rev up just a bit. You see the first couple of BYU athletes separate. And then a great stretch run by Whitney Orton to take down the 2018 WCC champion, Erica Brooke-Jarvis, by just a step. A great win for her, leading her team. Within the top 10, they had 8 BYU athletes.
And here's a look at the course that our competitors will run today. Josh, you mentioned an extra route for the men. Anything stand out about this course that we saw in the women's race that maybe we should talk about for the men?
You know, one of the things that did not happen in the women's race because it was a little bit slow that could happen with the men's race is the big challenge here is staying in concentrated form here, making sure that they are concentrated the entire way around. Is if you fall asleep for just a fraction here, you could be between groups, and that's a very, very tough spot to run.
And let's take a look at the guys we expect to see at the head of the pack today. And the Cougars have a dominant group, BYU that is. Connor Mance, we've seen some good races from him.
Yeah, Connor Mance, he's on a tear this year. Absolutely the cream of the crop. In my opinion, one of the top 2 or 3 athletes in the country, so it'll be a really nice treat to see him race. Let's see if he uses front running style, which he's known for, to take it out from the gun. James Mora, sophomore from Gonzaga, one of the fastest prep runners in history. Jacob Helsington from BYU, resurgent year. And of course, the senior from Portland, Emmanuel Rudolph Levis.
Here's a closer look at Connor Mance, first in the Pre-Nats Blue Race, first in the Dellinger Invite. third in last year's WCC, and he's having a great year nationally.
Yeah, I think that he is on his way to an All-American status, if not a national championship individually. Now, he's got some tough individuals in front of him, but he is as good as they come across the nation. Definitely, in my opinion, the top American-born athlete in the NCAA.
And taking a look at how the weather is shaping up here in Southern California, it's a sunny day in the San Fernando Valley. There you see the conditions. It's warmed up to 69 degrees. Humidity is just 8% and the wind out of the northwest at 5 miles an hour. Fortunately, with all the fires here in Southern California, smog is not a factor.
Yeah, it is great conditions out here. It's a shade on the warm side. I don't think that's going to be much of a factor for the men over 8 kilometers. It shouldn't play into it at all, but it's great for spectators. The wind, absolutely a non-factor here today at all. Great conditions out on the course. Dry, flat, fast, firm, everything you want to run fast.
You know, it's interesting. Came in here, it was 46 degrees when I got here this morning. Let's go with the coaches' poll, see how the coaches think this is going to go in today's West Coast Conference Championship. They voted on the top 5. That's the national coaches poll. Northern Arizona ahead of BYU, Colorado, Stanford, and Iowa State round out the top 5. But you got Portland and Gonzaga also in the top 30. Do the Pilots have a chance today to push the Cougars? Yeah, they do, and I think the reason why that is this is not a giant field. It is more of a dual meet, so every spot counts. So if the Pilots can break up that BYU group, then absolutely they can win this, and I expect Gonzaga to be in there as well. I mean, maybe they have some great running from spots 3 through 5 and pull off some sort of miracle to finish in the top 2. So you hear the whistle. We're waiting for the sound of the pistol. And there it is.
The gun sends them on their way. We're looking across there. You see a couple of runners in caps, so it is a bit sunny out there. We're going to keep an eye on, of course, BYU Cougars and in the blue tops, and it looks like blue over white. And George, right away, the thing that I notice is this is going to be a barn burner if this keeps up. They're out. This is fast right away. That looks to be Mara from Gonzaga, who is out pushing the pace. Maybe they'll settle in after this first 400 meters, but yeah, they weren't messing around right there. That is Mara. It looks to be out there on the right of your picture near the front. And as you look across the field, again, the blue over white of BYU is what we're going to keep an eye on throughout the course of today. Keeping an eye on for Connor Mance, James Mora, Jacob Helsington, and Emmanuel Rudolph Levis from Portland. A couple of sleepers out here, George, that we're going to keep an eye on as well as this race starts to form a little bit later on in the event. Andy Snyder from USF. He's a grad student. He's from my neck of the woods in the Tri-City area in Washington. He is, he definitely has shown a lot of potential. Transfer from UW as a grad student for USF. So I expect him to be in the mix, quite frankly, just by the virtue of the upward trajectory that he showed. And there he is in bib, looks to be bib 208 that we can see at the head of the field. And then keep an eye out for Peter Hogan as well. Peter Hogan was 61st at Nuttycombe and 13th in the WCC in 2018.
Yeah, it's great that you bring up Andy Snyder because a few years ago in San Diego, San Francisco had a graduate student, Alex Short from England, who really, I think, spoiled the day for a lot of their competitors. Yeah, that looking back on that race, Short was no slouch. He definitely took advantage of the course and just ran a very savvy race. And surprising a lot of people, not because of the talent that he showed, but just the savvy that he applied on the day. This course, however, you're not going to sneak away from anybody. So you got to be fit to win this, unless for some reason it goes very, very slow. Now, they've settled back down. You can see right now just the general cadence and easy arm carriage, not a lot of drive that's going through them right now. And it's a big pack up front, so we should be looking for Peter Hogan, who's bib number 48 from Gonzaga, James Mora, bib number 53 from Gonzaga. And then in Portland, of course, the Pilots. Now, what I think I've seen the Pilots do in the past is if they run very well in the second half of the race, so we're seeing whether or not
and they can make the 2018 WCC champ, who has since graduated, Nick Hauger, make him proud by bringing maybe one or multiple trophies back to the Rose City. So Portland is a dominant force in the WCC. They certainly don't like to lose. They certainly don't like to lose to BYU, and it will all come down to how well they weather this initial storm from BYU once the race really gets rolling.
Right now, looking at the team scoring, BYU, Portland, Gonzaga in the top three, kind of as you predicted it, Josh.
Well, and again, we're looking at this in terms of like the first split, that first kilometer split. It's not super fast, not super slow. We're really going to take a peek as it comes through the 2K split. Now, what we're looking at is if we're running 3 minutes per kilometer, that's 4:48 per mile. That's definitely respectable over cross country. But that these athletes are capable of much more than that over longer distances, to be perfectly frank. As the athletes come through, you can see that the race is slow enough that Gonzaga, with the red and looks like red navy uniforms, they've got 5 folks up there. Even though the point total is showing us 91, it looks to be 5, maybe just 4 of the athletes up there, but they're in there, and so these scores are a little bit misleading so early on, with the exception of BYU being out in front. Now, as we look a little bit through the field, there's going to be some folks that we're going to kind of keep an eye on too. Carl Winter, sophomore from Pepperdine, he ran at the Santa Clara Bronco Invitational, was 16th there. He's got a couple of teammates as well, all sophomores from Pepperdine. That could be a good 1 through 3 for them, and we'll see whether or not that holds true. So that's Jackson Felkins and Kyle McCabe from Pepperdine as well. And then in terms of the Portland pilots, to keep on the lookout from there, bib number 141, Caleb Webb, bib number 135, Riley Austin, and they will look into some more of those athletes as they present themselves in that first 2 kilometers right now. As it's going so far, George, again, super relaxed, athletes looking very comfortable. Up near the front, we'll look for that 2K split, probably about 30 seconds from now as they come around towards the finish line. The pass underneath the finish line and loop back around on that same starting stretch we saw them tear into earlier. There are some athletes up front. Portland, Gonzaga, a ton of BYU. It looks to be like all 5 of the Portland athletes are just off of the back of the BYU Cougars. So this is some smart running by Portland. They're doing a great job of laying off the early pace. Now, it is a little bit quicker than I gave them credit for. So they're just looking very smooth. So about 5:53 for 2K. So that's getting up and putting it down, but the athletes just look like this is definitely in control for them. So I was a little off on the earlier prediction, but they are moving right along here, and I'm surprised at how big the group is. Maybe that means that the lead runners are just pushing all their chips in the middle of the table, as they say, saying like, this is a championship, let's go for it. But in the moment right now, yeah, it's at 5:53 through 2K, not too bad.
You know, I asked you during the women's race, Josh, is there a stretch on this track where you say, let's just lay it all out and go hard? Is there a temptation to do that?
Well, you know, as we had mentioned earlier, that the way that it starts out is very, very fast. So when you come back around, it's not as fast on that finishing stretch. The other spot that I think it's fairly quick is when they come up just before the K. So there's probably about 500-600 meters as a lead into the K, which is fairly quick. But again, it's not going to gain you a ton to go out there and try and break away, especially this early. The athletes are too talented, they're too fast, they know each other. No one's going to surprise anyone at this point. And if you look to the left, a picture here, you can see Emmanuel Rudolph Levis out there for Portland in bib number 136, and the Cougars and the pilots, their jerseys look very similar on screen. Of course, Portland's purple, BYU blue. So it's tough to tell just from a glance, from ways away where the athlete stands, but as they pass by us, it's definitely Portland and BYU out there battling out for the team title. That's Riley Austin, who was 10th at WCC in 2018, doing a little bit of work up in front. It's been 135 with his teammate, who is Emmanuel Rudolph Levis, a senior from Portland. Now, an interesting story on him. He was 19th at Nuttycombe, which in 2017 he was the West Regional champion, and in 2018 he was 21st at the NCAA cross country meet and 11th in 2017. So the reason I bring that up is that Nuttycombe is a good race. James Moore, I believe, beat him at Nuttycombe, but the indication to me is he was 39th in 2018, so he is ahead of schedule fitness-wise than he was last year. And last year he was still 21st at the national meet. So this guy is a talent. I think he's maybe a little bit ahead of schedule. So I definitely know that Ed Eyestone and his BYU Cougars are not overlooking him and his teammates and their talent as they enter into this race. There's definitely something to think about.
Yeah, and last year both BYU and Portland stood on the podium at nationals. So these are two very competitive programs.
Yeah, I think that's a great thing to point out. And over the last couple of years, they've been phenomenal when it really matters. Not just here at the WCC, but also within their respective regions. BYU in the Mountain region, and then Portland in the West region. But to your point, that's certainly something where in 2017, I believe that Portland was second and BYU was third. They switched spots in 2018, so BYU being second and Portland third. Both losing to Northern Arizona for that team title, but that's certainly a bit of, like we talked about earlier with the women's race, a bit of bragging rights between these two teams. Now, BYU Cougars are looking to win for the 5th year in a row. Up before they joined the conference, it was a Portland show through and through.
Portland went from the late 70s to 2010.
I believe it was like something along the lines about 34 in a row. Somewhere in that ballpark, 32, 34. So they have. It's nice to have BYU in the conference for sure, and I think that Portland really appreciates that. It's pushed them as a team as they go into some of these bigger meets to think strategically and race, with their head on a swivel, so they say they can't just dictate everything. So having these technical races is really, really important for them as they look into the postseason. So that's something that I'm sure both teams benefit from.
Well, I remember, going back, I worked the first ever telecast of one of these meets back in 2011, first time BYU competed in the West Coast Conference. And there were people saying, well, you're seeing all of Portland's top runners running today. They used to see Rob Connor hold a lot of those guys out till regionals.
Yeah, that is true, and you'll notice today too. Just going through the scratch list before we got on air, is that BYU is not going to run everyone that they possibly could run. Clayson Shumway from BYU is not running today. That doesn't mean anything other than the fact that he's available for the regional and the national meet should they need him. And both these coaches, Ed Eyestone and Rob Connor, they know what they're doing. So they understand their athletes very, very well, and they know that they need to make sure that they're taking everything into consideration for both this meet and the national meets that are up and coming here. As we're coming through the next 2K split, so they have, it looks like they've slowed it down just a tiny bit, so they're just under 12 minutes through 4K. So the first 2K was very quick, and then they backed off the gas a little bit. But not much of a change. Big pack up front. Looks like 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 Gonzaga, and then their 5th and 6th Gonzaga athletes in a little bit of a chase pack working together to maybe bridge that gap or hold on tight. Andy Snyder's got a bit of work to do to maintain contact with that lead pack, but as he continues to progress through the course, the key thing for him is like he's got to latch onto someone and work together. We want to make sure that he wants to make sure that he is not left out there running by himself, or he's going to be hurting towards the second half of this race.
So right now, almost 13 minutes into the race, BYU, the team leader, followed by Portland, Gonzaga, Pepperdine, Santa Clara, and San Francisco. Pacific is the only school not racing today. Loyola Marymount, St. Mary's, and San Diego round out the bottom 3 of the 9 racing.
Now, George, as you look at those intermediate scores, I think that fourth split is something that we can start to make some assumptions about the race. We're far enough away where, we might not have everything settled so far because that's why they run the race, but you can see that it's going to be a battle especially for spots 4, 5, and 6 in the conference. And then Gonzaga is hoping to maybe, pull something out of their bag of tricks. Pat Tyson is a competitor. He's going to have his fellows ready to go, as clearly they are. They're going to have a great second half of the race, and maybe, who knows, sneak into second. We'll see. Right now, though, they are in a solid third, but I don't think they came here to race for third.
No, and Pepperdine's having a great day.
Yeah, Pepperdine's in the mix there. We talked a little bit about those top 3 guys, all sophomores, so they got a young group that's there. So maybe they can move up and leverage some of that. Now we're starting to see as we make that turn over to the 5K split. It's going to be tough for us to see the 5K, but this is it. They're getting things rolling right now. So a couple of BYU guys out in front, followed by
it looks like James Mora's out there too.
Well, that looks to be also in the mix is one of those Portland athletes. That could be Ruben Kiprono from Portland, who is out there going through that 5K split. And it's going to be tough for us to see that 5K, but we can assume that it is going to be well under the 15-minute mark here. It looks to be, if that's the K marker, by our estimates, maybe 14:48 or so. So that means they're out there running definitely under 4:48 per mile, so under 3 minutes per kilometer, which is good. Which is good. They still got to leaving a lot of meat on the bone here. So if the race gets going towards the second half, and they want to really stomp on the gas, and they certainly have that in reserves. So bib number 21, bib number 23, bib number 22 from BYU. So that's Jacob Helsington, Jacqueline from BYU, bib number 22 in there as well. And bib number 23 is Connor Mance. And in the back there, I believe that is Ruben Kiprono, it looks to be, from Portland. So that's great to see him out there throwing it down, having a great race. Now, he's no slouch for sure. This isn't a huge surprise that he is in the mix because he has been 14th at the WCC meet in 2018, 62nd at Nuttycombe. Interesting, not a tremendous track athlete up to this point in his career, but he has stepped up at WCC every year and has done a really good job. I got to be honest, I'm a little surprised that the rest of the Portland athletes have now kind of fallen back. Now, this could be the fact that the pace was quick, it settled back, and it's starting to maintain a bit of that quickness. But overall, Portland is getting a little bit strung out, so there's going to be a big battle. They're going to need Ruben to run really well and maybe break up this 1-2. If Ruben can get the win here and get that low stick, that's going to put Portland in a tremendous position to maybe upset BYU.
And then you've got the whole jockeying for position 5, 6 down.
Yeah, that's absolutely right, and we'll see that as they come by here that it's strung out, and you're starting to see these pairs develop along the course. And it's it's going to be maybe 2 Portland guys together, or maybe 2 BYU guys together, or maybe 1 Portland, 1 BYU, maybe it's a trio. But this little race within a race is absolutely critically important. So some of these guys are going to shut off an opportunity for them to win the overall title, and they're going to focus their energy on winning that race within the race. And that's what you got to do over cross country. You got to maintain or advance your position. Not a ton. You don't have to be a hero at this point. You just got to do your job for the team. And there, we're taking a peek right now. That looks to be that is Mance, who is going to the front, followed by Helsington, and Mance is on it. It's on now. It is on now. They're at it's at 6K, and Kiprono is there. So it was like 17:50 1:45 or so. So that is roughly about another 3-minute kilometer. Rough estimate of that. Kiprono has fallen off. Mance is on it. This is it. This is the bid for all the marbles right here, and it should be. This is the last lap.
Yeah, 2-man race right now. And the Cougars well represented. It
is a 2-man race, but it looks like Mance is doing everything in his power right now to make it a 1-man race. Like, this is his bid, and he is by his efforts right now. He is telling Jacob they're not running together. They are definitely not running together right now. They are in it to win this race, and it is up to Jacob to see whether or not he can hang long enough to make a move of his own. But if they were running together, you would see them a little bit closer side by side and pushing the pace together. But that is not the case at all.
And every time we get a shot of our leaders, Kiprono is a little further back.
Yep, he's definitely snapped off the back. The key to this is like as they come into this last lap, you don't want that rubber band to break. You can stretch for sure, but once that rubber band breaks, it becomes a very, very difficult thing to kind of like stem the bleeding, shall we say, and maintain position. So he has got to keep his wits about him, keep competing. The competition now is kind of within himself to hold off any sort of these late charges by BYU athletes. Portland needs him at this point. They need him, and they need Austin to step back up, and they need Manuel Rodolfo Levis to make his magic again over this last lap.
So right now, BYU a team score of 21, Portland 43, Gonzaga 69, Santa Clara, Pepperdine, and San Francisco rounding out the top 6. Surprise on Santa Clara being in the mix.
No, Santa Clara, I talked to their coaches a bunch. That's great to see them running very, very well. I expect Santa Clara to be a great team in the WCC next year. So anything they can get this year is just icing on the cake. Now, as you take a look, Kiprono has gotten a little bit dicey for him. James Mora moving past him with a BYU runner. It's tough to see here, but Mora, Kiprono, BYU are chasing down our 2 leaders. Now, it looks like Mance, when you look at Mance run, right, it looks like he is like out there, he's out there boxing. But don't let that fool you, because the guy is a stud. He is an absolute stud. And even though it looks like he's grinding away a little bit, it gets the job done for him. And there's no style points, right? Cross country. It is just whether or not you can get to the finish line first. So what works for him is all that matters. And it's tough sometimes to see whether or not he is feeling good or he's not. But the guy hasn't lost all year, so chances are that he feels like he can win again today.
Certainly confidence snowballs as the season goes on.
Yeah, I think so. And even races are just an indication of how well you've been going in practice, and a lot of the confidence happens with these athletes when they're in practice, and they're going to do some tremendous workouts that might be better than some of their races. They might get out there and have something that is very, very tough, especially on the weeks they don't race, that are much more of an effort than races. Now, races is just putting all the elements of practice together for sure. Now, so they're on their way. They're under about a mile to go, definitely under a mile to go, and it's all on. So we can see right in front of us, Mance he's got that longer grinding stride and a little bit more smoother carriage from Jacob as he's chasing him down. That's Heslington as he is trying to run down Mance, but Mance is actually closing down on the lead vehicle. So the lead vehicle is having a little bit of trouble getting away from Mance as we see him start to swing around that final turn. Now Gonzaga is in a great position here. They're running very, very well. If you look back in the pack, you see a couple of zags in here interspersed with some of these Portland athletes, in addition to James Mara doing his job up at the front. So it's going to come down to Gonzaga's 3, 4, 5 guys they got to beat someone. If they want to move into second, they got to beat someone. They're a top 30 team. They're probably going to get an at-large bid to NCAAs out of the West region. But this is a great chance. If they can beat Portland today, huge both an actual win and a confidence booster, as you mentioned, George.
And a great win for your program. Great win in terms of upgrading your program over the next few years.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, they're on the upswing already, but this would be a giant step for them. And we're looking. Here we go. That's split 7 that's on your screen right now. That's the 7-kilometer split. But this is it. This is it. Here's for all the marbles right now, and they're running side by side. It is Mance leading the way, but are we going to see a repeat with Heslington coming through? Mance, and here comes Heslington. Jacob on the inside, Mance in the front, and whether or not Mance can hold him off, it looks to be like he's just got just enough. And then in the back, the race for third, Mara is trying to hold on in third. The real big race for third as Mance takes the victory here, the 2019 champion. Second, and then BYU going third, Mara coming in fourth from Gonzaga, and then BYU again in fifth. Great race by the Cougars up front. Tremendous run for them. That's Matt Owens, the big miler, and steeplechaser coming through, and BYU doing a wonderful job out there, finishing very well. Portland, 2 athletes through, as another Cougar comes through, followed by a Portland athlete. Looks to be Gonzaga out there as well, trying to put things together. This is going to be tight for second and third, but it looks to be possibly that BYU has done the job as we cut back to a couple more athletes out on course. And we're going to try and get some of those scores for you. But Mance, doing what Mance does.
Yeah, he had a great follow-through down the chute.
Yeah, I think this is something where he looked in control in that finishing stretch. We know that he can dig a little bit deeper than that. The thing that gets me excited about his accomplishments is his previous, before last year, his previous 5,000 meter best was 13:52, and then this spring ran 13:29. So lopping a huge chunk out of there to really make him a force in the NCAAs and in the U.S. Was 4th in the NCAA 10K and 7th in the NCAA 5K. His 10K previous best was 28:57, dropped it down to 28:12. So this guy is, he's ready. He is for sure ready. Look at him. He's ready to go again. So I think it's a great indication that it's going to be a fireworks show at the Mountain Region and then also at NCAAs. BYU, of course, does battle the top team in the nation, Northern Arizona, at their regional meet.
Yeah, and that's always exciting when the Lumberjacks and the Cougars race. And I was impressed in watching the end of the race and just seeing how BYU pushed each other.
Yeah, BYU doing a very good job out there. You can see it is getting a little bit warm, so they're rubbing a little bit of ice down on the athletes at the finish line. So 69 is a shade warm, but they did a good job of kind of controlling the pace, much like we saw the women. We're going to get a chance to chat with them in just a second to see if the heat was at all a factor. But again, BYU a lot of talent, Portland a lot of talent. I'd be excited to see them at regionals. So overall, a great run by Cougars, Portland, and Gonzaga. We'll wait for those official scores to pop up.
Yeah, and as we always say in this event, the runners out on the track who are toward the back of the pack do play a role in their team scores and in figuring out who finishes 1 through 9. And sometimes the difference, what happens with the fellows who are still out there, makes the difference between 3rd and 4th place or 5th and 6th. Big deal in the standings. But Connor Mance, the redshirt sophomore from BYU, having a championship afternoon. There you see him right there, enjoying, basking in the sunshine of Southern California, and really showing his stamina down the stretch, and he had a little extra to give going across, beating teammate Jacob Heslington. Heslington's had a great year too. 4th in the pre-national blue race, 3 spots behind Mance, who finished as the champion. Last year, Mance 3rd here in the WCC meet, 10th last year at the NCAA meet. Part of the reason why the Cougars stood on the podium as the 2nd best team in the country behind Northern Arizona, and right behind BYU last year at Nationals Portland. So the West Coast Conference looking to have another strong year on the national stage as we've started November, the championship season for cross country across America. So still a few more athletes out there on the course. Looking at the numbers as they're coming across, we have BYU coming in at the top spot, but all of the numbers are unofficial until everybody clears the finish line and the coaches have a chance to air any grievances or challenges to what happened out during the 8-kilometer run this morning. So that's the big question. And they technically have 30 minutes to do that from when the last athlete crosses the finish line, but we haven't had a whole lot of drama in recent years here in the West Coast Conference meet, so not expecting any today. Dry course, ran very fairly. And Connor Mance, the champion. Let's head down to the finish line. Josh Muxon is there with some of our winners.
That's right, George. I'm here with Connor Mance, our individual champion, and Coach Ed Eyestone. Great to see both of you gentlemen out here again. Connor, first of all, congratulations on the win. It looks to me like you were in control throughout the first half of the race. What flipped the switch? When did you decide to go? And to walk us through a little bit of the moves.
The first 2K, I just wanted to get out and get in good position. The first lap just kind of felt slow, so I tried to keep it like an honest pace, and then after that, when it was moving, at 2K, I just decided, it would probably be best to sit back a little bit and wait. And then at halfway, I just decided, me and Coach talked beforehand that 4K would be a good time to stretch it out and just kind of get the race rolling. So decided to take it then and just kind of start pushing it.
Yeah.
And then 6K was just me and my teammate Jake Heslington, and so did some running in together, and then just kind of finished a little bit apart, but it was good.
Yeah, and I know you're kind of downplaying this, which is a great indication to me that you're super fit, you're ready to go. You've had a great year, and tell us what it's like to, having a great year is one thing. Having Jake with you and the rest of your team is something super special. So tell us what it's been like over the course of the year to be running with this great group of guys.
Yeah, we knew that this year was going to be an off year in the sense that we lost a lot of great athletes last year. However, we knew that coming into this year that if we kept working hard and if we had the right guys step up, we could still do just as well, if not better, than we did last year. So, I got an itch in my throat.
That's okay. I think you've deserved a little bit of time. Yeah, earned a cough or two. Exactly. One of the things we were talking about on air, and which I love, is the way that you go out and just lay it down, and you're not afraid to get out there. In terms of the way that you prefer to race, right? Do you enjoy maybe playing around with some of the tactics, or you just like grinding from the gun?
I love to grind from the gun. I think it's a lot more of a raw form of racing, and I think, it's a foot race. It's an 8K race, and, a lot too many times I think in cross country and in college racing, you make it like a 4K or 8K of running hard, but then a 2K race, and I think it should be a whole 10K race, 8K race, depending on the race. So.
Well, I love that. And Coach, we were talking a little bit earlier. It's great to see you again. I got to be honest with you, it's a big bloated score of 18, so probably a little bit disappointing for you. No? Talk us through how you felt about how the guys ran today.
I told the guys right before we stepped to the line, I said, we're a strong team, but Portland's a strong team. Gonzaga's a strong team. They have some very competitive people. They have some All-American quality people, and in a race like this, especially where you just have a few teams maybe that are a little better than the others, it can be a street fight. So I said just be prepared for a street fight, and I think we saw Portland giving us a street fight for the first 4K, and then when Connor put some pace on it, stretched it out a little bit, but I thought that the other runners from Portland and Gonzaga stepped up well enough that all of our guys were pushed, and we need that. We need some good competition to prepare ourselves for the next two rounds of championship competition, the regional meet and the national meet.
Yeah, and I think that's a very good point that you bring up. I'm always curious to see, as you look back into the field, you kind of know what's going to be expected with the top couple of guys, but what are some of those races within a race battles that you were proud of when you watched the race?
That's the other kind of instruction that we have is to, not everybody can be the Connor Mance or Jake Heslington that's battling for the win. So basically, win your race, because as things stretch out with a K to go, you look around, that is your race. And so that's what I was yelling to the guys over the last 2K, win your race. And I think to a man, we saw Danny Carney dig down, and he was gapped and was in the race for 3rd, 4th, 5th place. He won his race for 3rd. I think Matt Owens won his race for whatever position he was battling. And that allowed us to move up. I don't know, what the intermediate scores were, but I think we did a good job winning the race, each individual race over the last couple of K to give us the low score.
Yeah, and I thought you did a great job of that as a spectator as well, watching that. So look, we know things can change at 10K, but it seems to me that you're in a great position to perform very well, both within the region and, of course, at Nationals. So best of luck as you move on with your season. Congratulations on the individual win and the team win. Always great to see both of you. And we'll turn it back over to George.
All right, Josh, outstanding work down there at the finish line. You see our backdrop here. You couldn't ask for a more beautiful day in Los Angeles. There you see Connor Mance with a winning time of 23:33. Jacob Heslington right behind him, 2 seconds off that pace. Carney, Mora, and Owens rounding it out. BYU taking 4 of the top 5 places in this meet. And BYU with the team championship. Remember, these results are still unofficial, but that's the way they stand right now. And a great run by the Cougars, led by Connor Mance, who's one of the more dominant runners in the country. Portland finished 2nd. Gonzaga finished 3rd in terms of the team standings. There you see them right there. Santa Clara and then San Francisco. But Portland getting some great running today from Ruben Caprono, Emmanuel Rudolph Levis, and Michael Terran Solano. They finished 6, 10, and 8 in the race today. They also got a good run. Everett Silva finished 15th. Riley Olson finished 12th. So Portland well represented in the top 20. Gonzaga, James Mora, Peter Hogan, Cohen McEachern, and Jake Perrin, their top 4 runners this afternoon. Philip Fishburne led for part of this race early on. He wound up finishing in 20th place. For Santa Clara, Jorge Estrella and Harvey Chilcott led the way for the Broncos today. And then San Francisco finishing 5th. Andrew Snyder, 25th overall. Stam Stevens, 32nd for the Dons. So a very competitive race. A strong finish by BYU, Josh. We really saw a lot of separation there, and it became Mance and Heslington's race at the end.
Yeah, it did. It absolutely did for those 2 guys up in front. But when talking to Coach Eyestone, one of the things that he pointed out was that it is the race is within the race. So you can count on those top 2 guys to have some low sticks, as they say in the game. But you got to score 5. And Portland went for it, and they really tried to bring it to BYU. So the interesting thing is that now the race is in the books, right? And Portland had some good races. I think they still have some opportunity for them to continue to take some swings at BYU at the national level. But they're going to split between regions. Portland goes to the west, BYU goes to the mountain. And it absolutely is something where if they were to meet up again, and when they meet up again over 10K, who knows?
And they'll be running again in a couple weeks at regionals. There's the start of today's WCC championship.
Yep, and I thought it got out pretty quick, but then packed up a little bit as we see BYU at the head of the spear, followed by Portland right in the mix here. Still everybody running comfortably. I was a little lulled into how easy it looked for them, and they were running fairly quick. Now you see Mora off the back from Gonzaga wearing bib number 53 as they're coming through a bit. One of these small pieces of shade on the course. Still a lot of BYU, a lot of Portland. Gonzaga still in that solid 3rd position. That's Riley Austin looking around a little bit here, bib 135. Now starting to stretch out a little bit. Zach Jacqueline from BYU, and then the break and the separation. And we start to see it string out a little bit. Mara out there trying to hang on, and then is a 1-2 That is Mance and Heslington out there in the final stretch, and Connor Mance taking the win, doing a great job winning the 2019 WCC Cross Country Championship. His teammate in second and third, winning that battle over Mara.
Well, was it the race we expected, Josh?
You know, I think on the men's side, it was the race that we expected. I think that Portland gave him a good run. Gonzaga ran very, very well to validate their national ranking. BYU is one of the top teams in the country, you know, for a reason, and they're super talented. And I think they still have some guys that they didn't run. So I expect even bigger things from them. The thing that I like about BYU is they're very, very humble about their approach. They know that it's just one race. It's a championship race, but it's just one race as part of the process. And I think that's something that bodes well for them. Same thing with Portland and Gonzaga as they look towards the future.
Good chance to see the Pilots and the Cougars on the podium again?
I think Cougars, yes. I think Portland will have to have a tremendous race for them at the national meet to make it to the podium, and that is saying only the fact that is only indicating that they have been so good for the last couple of years. So if their year of sort of rebuilding is to finish in the top 10, that is an incredible program.
A lot of programs would take that as their best finish ever, but these programs higher standards. Well, it's been a great day, a banner day here in Los Angeles, the 2019 West Coast Conference Cross Country Championship. Thanks for joining us. For Josh Muxton, I'm George Devine, and we're going to look forward to seeing you soon. Yeah, it was a great day, a lot to celebrate here. The ladies got us going this morning. Great win for BYU on the women's side as the Cougars took the first of two races today, and the gentlemen got us going a little bit later. You've been watching an exclusive presentation of the West Coast Conference. We hope you join us again soon for another athletic event right here on the WCC Network.